Hi everybody, welcome to the next video in chapter 4. We're now into the non-proteobacteria that are gram-negatives, and we're also going to be talking about the phototrophic bacteria. So these include your spirochetes, the cytophaga, fusobacterium, and bacteroides group, which is known as your CFB group, the planktomycetes, and then we're going to talk about the phototrophic bacteria, which are not a taxonomic group. They actually belong to both the proteobacteria and non-proteobacteria, but what they all have in common is that they all photosynthesize. Spirochetes are the first of the non-proteobacteria. These are all motile, spiral-shaped gram-negative bacteria. They have a very long, slender, narrow body, and they are highly motile. They move very fast. They are often impossible to culture, and they're very hard to see using typical microscopy methods. So we usually use dark field microscopes when we're looking for these critters. Two examples of spirochetes are your Treponema pallidum, which causes syphilis, which is an STD, and then Borrelia burgdorferi, which causes Lyme disease, which is not an STD, it's a vector-borne disease. The next group are the CFB group, which includes your cytophaga, fusobacterium, and bacteroides. They are all rod-shaped gram-negative bacteria. They are anaerobic, and they are heterotrophs, but their environment differs. Cytophaga are aquatic, and they're always going to be found in water, whereas fusobacterium can be found in the mouth. Fusobacterium can potentially cause diseases of the mouth. And then we have the bacteroides. These are the most common gut bacteria that we have, and in general they are very beneficial to our guts. They make up about 30% of all the bacteria in our gut, so they are definitely the most common, and they keep pathogens from being able to inhabit the gut. So taking antibiotics can be very dangerous, because if you take a broad spectrum antibiotic and you kill off your fusobacteria or your bacteroides, then you're going to be more prone to pathogens starting to take hold of the gut. Then we have our planktomycetes. These are all aquatic gram-negative bacteria, but they are unique in that they reproduce via budding. So the parent cell, which is sessile, so it never moves, it stays in one place, it has a holdfast, will replicate its DNA, and then a small piece of the cell will blub off, forming this swarmer cell. The swarmer cell is then going to be able to move. It's a motile cell. Once it finds a place, it will produce its own holdfast and become sessile. And when that happens, it can then also replicate via budding. And you can look at table 4.7 on page 171 to summarize different genera of the non-proteobacteria. The phototrophic bacteria then are not a taxonomic group, like I said, but they all utilize photosynthesis to produce carbohydrates. And so there are some of these phototrophic bacteria that use oxygen, but there are others that do not use oxygen. So we're going to look at the sulfur bacteria first. Sulfur bacteria are anaerobic, and so they do not use oxygen at all. Instead, they use sulfur compounds. So you have two different types. You have two different types of sulfur bacteria. We have purple bacteria and green bacteria that are both sulfur bacteria, and they take from hydrogen sulfide or from sulfate. They will take hydrogen from those compounds producing sulfur gas as a byproduct. And then we have non-sulfur bacteria. We have, again, purple and green non-sulfur bacteria that are anaerobic. They do not fix sulfur, or they do not use sulfur. I'm sorry, not fix. They do not use sulfur. They can't utilize sulfur. Instead, they will utilize other molecules like nitrogen. And so here we have your purple non-sulfur bacterium and green non-sulfur bacterium. Hold on one moment. And then we have our phototrophic bacteria. So that are, not our phototrophic, our aerobic phototrophic bacteria. This is your cyanobacteria. These are oxygenic photosynthetic organisms. They are critical in maintaining our atmosphere, the oxygen environment. These are the organisms that produced oxygen as a byproduct that brought the oxygen to the earth before animals could come about. So without cyanobacteria, we would not be here. I'll stop here and we'll get into our gram positives in the next video. Bye.